Hey, welcome to the Freebooters Network. I'm Dale Kingsmill, and this is my Newbie's Guide to 40k, where I, a total newbie, try to guide other newbies through the lore of Warhammer. You know that classic game, Warhammer? It's my favorite. I like them Spurs Marines. No, I try to guide other newbies through the lore of Warhammer 40k. If this is your first episode, you can jump back to the first one using this card in the top corner, and I would recommend at least checking out the previous episode, since this is the second part of the Emperor's search for the missing Primarchs. You ready? You got it? Good, let's go. The next Primarch that the Emperor managed to locate was Reboot Guilliman, discovered in the forest by a hunting party of nobles, which I guess explains the name. Now, Guilliman's adoptive dad was the king and was hella popular with the common folk because he kept actually working hard to get stuff done for them. Like, it's crazy, I know. So then, while Guilliman had been sent out with his dad's armies to take care of a wildmen problem to the north, which went very well, thanks for asking, a coup was attempted against his father by the nobles who weren't so happy to be sharing the wealth amongst, everyone. By the time they returned, the city was in shambles and the palace, is that the right word, was under siege. Guilliman left the army to sort out the discord in the city streets as he rushed to his father's side. He was too late. An assassin had already gotten to King Nice Dad, but he was in time to learn who was responsible. He had them executed and established a really great role for himself, rewarding those who put in the most work in his society. Funny enough, the Emperor had actually been on the planet right next door and found out about Guilliman back when he was dealing with the Wildmen woes, but while hastening to get to his missing son, something warpy happened, and it wound up taking the Emperor 5 years to get there, so Guilliman was all established by then, still signed up with the Emperor though. Magnus was unusually psychically powerful, and the only Primarch to remember everything about his origin. He even managed to have psychic contact with the Emperor long before they actually met. Thankfully, he'd landed on a psychic-friendly planet, so he had a pretty chill time exploring all them psychic powers and the links they had to the warp. Eventually, the Emperor got around to coming by and picking him up. Sanguinius, pretty simple upbringing apart from the wings. He had wings. There's a little bit of an Apollo Python vibe going on since he killed a scorpion monster when he was a kid, but nothing too spectacular beyond the usual great warrior stories all the Primarchs have. Lion L. Johnson is an incredible name. He spent his first 10 years in the jungle by himself before meeting any people and then rising through their ranks as a warrior, yada yada. Then the Emperor came and got him. Perturabo. This dude got problems. Like most of the Primarchs, he was found and raised by an adoptive family, but he never really liked or trusted them. Then, when he was found and taken back in by the Emperor, he looked over the records of his Space Marine Legion and decided they weren't up to scratch. So he ordered that 1 of every 10 legionaries was to be selected by lotto and beaten to death by their comrades. I mean, how does that fix your perceived weakness problem, you psycho? Mortarion landed in a death field after a battle. Fun already. This was a very unpleasant place. Humans probably should never have settled here. It was full of poison fog and warlords and zombies, the huge. Amongst the silence of the dead, the warlord victor of this battle heard a baby's cries, and after locating the baby at its source, thought about killing it, but he knew no normal human could breathe the air here. So he took in the baby. He was kind of scared of little Mortarion's capabilities, so he tested the limits of his super lungs and then built his warlord fortress just a little bit higher up the mountain than Mortarion was capable of breathing. Just in case. He was right, I guess. Mortarion did at some point stop fighting for that warlord and left to find the human settlements beneath the unbreathable. He united all the humans over time and started building them gas masky things, and they took out every one of the warlords except one. The one who'd found him. Just before he was to lead his forces up the mountain, a mysterious stranger showed up and kind of dared him to do it solo. So up the mountain Mortarion went and nearly passed out from all the bads, but just before the warlord could kill him, the Emperor swooped in and chopped the baddie up. So Mortarion went with him. Lorgar Aurelian became a super charismatic priest guy on the planet to which he'd been whisked. At some point he had a vision of the Emperor and Magnus arriving to take him away and bring salvation, so of course he started a religious civil war, which was won just before the Emperor appeared, seemingly justifying the whole thing. E-Man disapproved, but he'd collected another Wayward Kid, so. Jagatai Khan looks like the bad guy from Flash Gordon and seems to have landed on a planet which was basically feudal Japan, or like the Mongols on the steppes. At some point, his adoptive dad gets killed and he pulls an Anakin, killing everyone. The women. The children. Also, he survived an avalanche, which is badass. Conrad Kurz crashed through to a core city of a super industrial planet, grew up as a street urchin, and then became Batman. If Batman maimed and dismembered people. Somehow, as a result of his vigilantism, he became king, and when the Emperor and his buds showed up to grab him, blinding everyone in the process by being super bright, he had a nice vision of all their deaths and tried to claw out his own eyes. The Big E wouldn't let him. He is a sad man. Angron was enslaved and modified, or even more modified than he already was, mortified, if you will, and forced to compete in gladiatorial combat. He tried and eventually succeeded at escaping the arena with his fellow fighters into the mountains, but it didn't go great. They lived there fine for a bit, but then bad guys had them all surrounded and death was certain. Right then, the E teleported in and offered to take him away and make him a great leader and give him a purpose in the crusade. Angron surprised the Emperor by turning down the offer, preferring to die here with his friends. Emperor goes back up to his ship, but then kidnaps Angron, takes him, and teleports him into the ship against his will just before the fighting begins. Boy oh boy. Corvus Coraz landed on a moon of oppressed penal colony type slaves and launches a vaguely Rog Blake style rebellion, blah blah, you know the drill by now. Eventually he hooks up with the Emperor and etc. Another guy we're not allowed to talk about, and then finally Alfarius Omega. No one actually found Alfarius so much as Alfarius launched an attack on some of the Imperium's ships and had a personal encounter with Horus as Alfarius's raiding party were making their way to the bridge. He's a super sneaky and secretive dude, and he won't even tell anyone what planet he landed on during the scattering. Also, he's secretly twins, so there's that. Whew! And that's it. That's the Emperor's collecting mission complete. Gotta catch 'em all. Primarchs mon. I hope you found this video enlightening. You can check the comments for corrections or fuller accounts, they might just be there, or you might just leave one for me. Please do. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Share it with your friends, go for it. I'm Dale Kingsmill. You can find me making videos on my own channel all the time. Monarch's Factory it's called. I'd love to see you over there. That's it for now. I'll see you next time.